Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Patricia and I am the creator behind Pops to Milk Crochet. In this video, I'm going to be remaking one of my earlier designs, the spooky Halloween Sandworm Slippers I made like 9 years ago now. And over the years, it's been one of the top patterns, like a favorite among crocheters. A lot of people like it. And I'm so thankful for everyone who has reached out with their feedback and questions and comments about it. And in particular, I have gotten questions on the ankle area and the heel. And I thought, you know what? I think it's time I put together a video tutorial to show you how to do that step. But of course, I'm not just going to show you that step alone. I will be taking you through all the different steps in the pattern. And just FYI, the written pattern is available for free on my blog. And you can also purchase the PDF in my Etsy shop and in my shop. I will leave the links to all of those in the description. All right, so about the pattern. So here are the original slippers that I made so long ago, and you can see how worn they are now, but they are still holding up. So about the pattern, I would say that this is a beginner intermediate, borderline intermediate pattern, and that's only because it does involve alternating colors throughout. Like you will need to have two strands of yarn going at the same time to make these different alternating rounds. And so the pattern starts off with the foot part, starting with the toe, and then working in rounds until we get to the heel. This is worked in rows, going back and forth. And then we set up for the ankle. And this is the part that I will definitely go into more detail just to how to do this. And then when we start going into the ankle rounds, the ankle is worked in rounds. And then finally the mouths, there's two different mouths. There's the inside mouth that gets sewn into the slipper afterwards. Part of them will be worked in rows. And then lastly, it's just some embroidery for the spots, sewing on the buttons or sewing on the eyes. You can choose to have buttons or embroidering pupils on the eyes if you like. And that is basically the whole structure of the slippers. And so when it comes to the colors, you can obviously use whatever color combo you like. These are using that classic black and white look that we're all familiar with. But for this tutorial that I'm about to show you, I'm going to be using pink and purple yarn just to change things up a little bit. It'll be easier to see than with black yarn. And also, I'm really liking this color combo of pink and purple together. I might be going through like a pastel goth phase or something. I don't know, but I'm loving that color combo right now. All right, I think that is all I have to say about the pattern, so let's get started. For these slippers, I'm using worsted weight acrylic yarn in pink and purple for the main body of the sandworm. I'm using a 5mm crochet hook, and I've got a couple of stitch markers close by. Not pictured are my measuring tape, yarn needle, and scissors. To make the foot, I'm going to start with the toe. Round 1. In a magic ring or magic circle, make 6 single crochets. If you are new to making a magic ring or magic circle, I've got a tutorial that I will link so you can check that out. At the end of the round, I'm going to slip stitch to the first stitch to join. And I am not going to turn at the end of the round. Round 2. Chain 1. Again, this does not count as a stitch, so I'm going to work my stitch into the same space as the slip stitch. Work 1 single crochet in the first stitch, increase in the next stitch, which means you work 2 stitches in the same stitch and repeat that around. At the end of the round, I will have 9 stitches, and this would be a good time to start using a stitch marker so you can keep track of where the round ends and begins. End the round with a slip stitch to join. Round 3. Chain 1, increase in each stitch around for a total of 18 stitches at the end of the round. join with a slip stitch, and do not turn. I know that's going to get super repetitive, so just keep joining with a slip stitch and don't turn. In rounds 4 to 5, just work even, otherwise known as crochet around without adding increases, and at the end of round 5, switch to your second color. In my case, it will be pink. I'm now finishing the round, and I'm going to grab the second color and pull that through to complete the slip stitch with the new yarn. Do not cut the first yarn, in my case the purple yarn. That's just going to hang loose until I need it again in a few rows. With the new yarn added, you can tie a knot if you like, or weave in the yarn tail. What I usually do is I use the working yarn tail and the tail as a double strand, and I work the first stitch that way so it secures the new yarn in place, and then I can just work it into the stitches. Now I just give both yarns a little tug to make sure everything is snug and secure, and I can start my next round. Round 6, single crochet into the next 2 stitches and increase in the next, and I'm going to repeat that around for a total of 6 times. And there will be 24 stitches at the end of the round. Each increase round is done in increments of 6, so you know that every time there's an increase, it will be done 6 times. So this round has a total of 24 stitches, and the next time I work an increase round, the number of stitches will go up to 30, and so on. In round 7 to 8, I won't increase, just single crochet around again. And this is basically the method for the foot portion. Work an increase round, followed by a few rounds of no increases while alternating between the 2 color strands. Before I continue here, I wanted to show you what I do with the strand of yarn I'm not using. I don't carry it all the way around because that would just make the fabric super thick and dense. Instead, I trap the inactive yarn whenever I do a slip stitch, and this is what it looks like. When I'm ready to switch back, I just slip stitch the inactive yarn back into place. At the end of round 8, I'm switching back to purple, and I'm going to work the next increase round. Round 9, single crochet in the next 3 stitches and increase in the next stitch, and I'm going to repeat that a total of 6 times for a total of 30 stitches at the end of the round. Again, after the increase round, I'm going to work even for rounds 10 to 11, and remembering to move my stitch marker up so I know where the round ends and which round I'm on. At the end of round 11, I'm switching back to pink and starting the final increase round. Round 12, single crochet in the next 4 stitches, increase into the next stitch, and I'm going to repeat that for a total of 6 times, giving me 36 stitches at the end of the round. For rounds 13 to 14, I'm going to single crochet around and switch back to purple at the end of round 14. Also at this point, use a measuring tape to check the width of your slipper and see if you want to add more increase rounds before continuing with the remaining rounds. The rest of the foot portion is worked even, and I continue to alternate between the 2 colors. So to avoid making this video super long and repetitive, here are the number of rounds to work for each color. I'm going to work on my rounds, and I will see you back here at the end of round 33. I'm at round 33, and before I continue, I'm going to grab my measuring tape and just check the length. If you need to add length to your slipper, this is where you can keep adding rounds and continuing to alternate the colors. I'm happy with the size, so I'm going to continue. I'm going to cut the pink yarn only and keep the purple, and depending on if you add more rounds, this might be different for you. From here, I will start on the heel, which is worked in rows, and that means I'll be turning at the end of the row. Row 1, I'm going to chain 1 and single crochet in the next 24 stitches, leaving the remaining stitches, and then I will turn at the end of this row. Now in rows 2 to 7, I'm going to chain 1. This does not count as a stitch, so work the first stitch into the same space and single crochet in each stitch across and turn at the end. There won't be any color switching at this point, just single crochet in rows. I'm going to work on these rows and I'll see you back here for row 8. Now I'm going to start adding some shape to the heel. Row 8, chain 1, single crochet in the next 4 stitches, decrease, single crochet in the next 5 stitches and decrease, then single crochet in the next 5 stitches and decrease, and finish the row with single crochet in the next 4 stitches and turn at the end of the row. Row 9, chain 1, single crochet in the next 3 stitches and decrease, single crochet in the next 4 stitches, and I'm going to decrease 2 times, single crochet in the next 3 stitches, make a decrease, and end the row with a single crochet in the next 3 stitches, and I will turn at the end of the row. Row 10, chain 1, single crochet in the next 8 stitches, decrease, single crochet in the next 7 stitches, and turn. Row 11, we'll chain 1 and single crochet in each stitch across. Now I'm going to set up the ankle rounds, and to do that I'm just going to fold this heel portion, and I'm going to bring the first and the last stitch from row 11 together, and I'll slip stitch to join. With the 2 stitches joined, I now have 2 openings, the foot opening on the top and a gap in the back of the heel, which I will sew later on with a yarn needle. But for now, I'm going to work on the ankle, and this is worked in rounds, and I'm not going to turn at the end of the round. Round 1, Chain 1 and evenly single crochet 36 stitches into the row edges of the foot opening. This turned out to be 11 single crochets along one side, then 14 single crochet along the front top part of the foot, and 11 single crochets on the other side. And that will total 36 stitches. At the end of the round, I'm going to switch to pink yarn and slip stitch to the first stitch to join. And I will not turn at the end of this round. Now for the next few rounds, rounds 2 to 6, I'm just going to single crochet around as usual. Chain 1, single crochet in each stitch around, and slip stitch to join to the first stitch. I'm going to work on that, and at the end of round 6, I'm going to switch back to purple. So I will see you for the start of round 7. I've finished round 6, and for round 7, I'm going to be working into the front loops only. A fellow crocheter gave me the suggestion, and I thought it was genius because when you do this, it sets up the stitches when it's time to sew the inside mouth to the slipper. But don't worry, I'll show you what that means later on. But for now, in round 7, working into the front loops only, I'm going to single crochet in the next 5 stitches and increase in the next stitch and repeat that around for a total of 42 stitches at the end of the round. Now working in both loops again, I'm going to work even for rounds 8 to 9. Just finishing round 9, and that is the end of the main foot part of the slipper. So I'm going to cut the yarn here and weave in the ends. At this point, I'm also going to take some yarn and use a yarn needle to sew that gap in the back of the heel. I'm flipping the heel inside out so it's easier to work with. Tie a knot to secure my yarn and then sew the seam together, working into both loops and layers to make sure there are no gaps and everything is sturdy. Then I just weave in the ends and cut the excess yarn. And there we have the foot. Now let's move on to the mouth. For the mouth, I'm going to need 2 stitch markers to place on either side of the foot opening. To do this, I'm going to flatten the foot with the heel evenly centered, and I'm going to place a marker on each side. These markers indicate where each of the mouth pieces will go. The mouth pieces are worked in rows, so I'll be turning at the end of the row. With the purple yarn, I'm going to pick up a stitch in one of the marked stitches. It doesn't matter which one since it will both be worked in the same way. So I'm picking up a stitch in one of the markers and I'm going to single crochet 21 stitches, and then I will turn and I will leave the remaining stitches. Those stitches will be for the second half of the mouth. When you get to the back of the heel, make sure you don't work into the slip stitch because that's going to add an extra stitch to your stitch count. So make sure you're only working into the single crochet stitches and not into the slip stitch join seam area. Then just continue working across and finish with a single crochet in the marked stitch. Row 2, chain 1 and work even. In the last stitch, I'm going to switch to the pink yarn, and in the remaining rows, I'm going to decrease at the end so that the mouth takes on a triangular shape. So this is how. In row 3, chain 1, decrease, single crochet to the last 2 stitches, decrease, and turn, and I'll have 19 stitches. And I'm going to repeat that in the remaining rows. So just so this doesn't get repetitive again, I'm going to continue to decrease at the beginning and end of each row until I have 3 stitches left. On row 7, I'm going to switch to purple yarn and cut the pink yarn and finish the mouth with purple yarn. Alright, I have finished working all my decreases, so now I'm going to cut the yarn and weave in the ends. With the purple and right side facing, I'm going to pick up a stitch next to one of the marked stitches, and now I'm just going to repeat this all on the opposite side to create the other half of the mouth. I'm picking up a single crochet in the stitch next to the stitch marker and working the same rows as before, so I'm going to work on that and meet you back here when that's done. Here is the main mouth. It needs a finishing trim around the mouth, but first I'm going to work on the inside mouth so that I can sew that piece in first. The inside is worked similarly to the outer mouth, but it starts with rounds so that it pokes out from the inside. I'm going to leave a long tail because that's what I'll use to sew the inside mouth to the slipper. Now I'm going to chain 42 and join the first chain to form a ring, being careful not to twist the chain. Chain 1 and single crochet in each chain around, including the same space as the slip stitch, for a total of 42 stitches at the end of the round. At the end of the round, join with a slip stitch and do not turn. Rounds 2 to 5, chain 1, single crochet around, and of course join with a slip stitch at the end of each round. I'm going to work on these rounds and meet you back here at the end of round 5. The rest of the inside mouth is worked in rows, so I'll be turning at the end of the row. Row 1, chain 1, single crochet in the next 21 stitches, leaving the remaining stitches, and turn. You can place stitch markers as a reminder if that's helpful, just like for the outer mouth. Rows 2 to 3, chain 1, work even, and turn at the end of each row. The inside mouth is going to be triangular as well, but a bit more narrow, and to do that I'm going to work even rows in between the decreased rows for the next few rows. In the remaining rows, I'm going to decrease in each row until there are 3 stitches left. So for rows 10 to 15, I'm going to chain 1, decrease at both ends, and then turn. I'm going to work on that and see you back here at the end of row 15. I'm done my decreases for now, so I'm going to cut the yarn and weave in the ends. With the right side facing, I'm going to pick up a stitch on the other side and repeat rows 1 to 15 to create the other side of the inside mouth. Here is the inside mouth ready to be attached to the slipper. With a yarn needle, I'm going to sew the inside mouth to the back loops in round 7 of the ankle, and I found this easier to do by folding the ankle down until the stitches from round 7 were exposed, and then I fit the inside mouth over it with the wrong side facing. I used stitch markers to keep the pieces in place, and then I started sewing the mouthpiece into the back loops in round 7. Before I get to the finishing touches, I'm going to work on the fins. In the original slippers, I only attached 1 fin to the top of the head, but for this pair of slippers, I'm going to make 2. The fins are worked in continuous rounds, so I won't be turning or joining or starting with a chain at the beginning of each round. With purple yarn and a 3mm crochet hook, I'm going to start round 1 with 4 single crochet in a magic ring. In round 2, I'm going to increase in the first stitch and then single crochet in the next stitch, and I'm going to repeat that twice for a total of 6 stitches. In round 3, I'm just going to single crochet in each stitch around without increasing. Round 4, I'm going to increase in each stitch for a total of 12 stitches at the end of the round. Round 5, I'm going to decrease, then single crochet in the next 4 stitches. Increase in the next stitch, and single crochet in the next 5 stitches, and I will have a total of 12 stitches. In round 6, I'm going to decrease, single crochet in the next 3 stitches, increase in the next 2 stitches, single crochet in the next 5 stitches, and then I will slip stitch to the first stitch, and I will have 13 stitches. Now I'm just going to cut the yarn, leaving a tail to sew on to the slipper. Next, I'm going to add the mouth trim to both the outer and inner mouth. I'm using teal yarn for contrast, and I just love this color combo, the pink and the teal. I'm picking up a single crochet in the corner of the mouth and evenly single crochet all around the row edges. And when I get to the end, I'm going to slip stitch to the first stitch. Then I'm just going to slip stitch in each stitch around to give it a neat finish. Then I'm going to cut the yarn and weave in the ends. And I'll repeat the same thing with the outer mouth. Alright, let's move on to making the eyes. I don't have colors that I necessarily like in DK weight yarn like it says to use in the pattern, so I'm going to go with white. Also, it will be easier for you to see what I'm doing. I'm going to use white for both sets of eyes, starting with the red eyes, which have a sort of diamond shape. I'm starting with a chain 6, single crochet in the second chain from the hook, then half double crochet in the next chain, make 2 double crochet in the next chain, half double crochet in the next chain, make 2 single crochet in the last chain, and now I'm going to continue working in the spaces of the bottom of the foundation chain. So I'm going to half double crochet into the next space, two double crochet into the next space, half double crochet in the next space, and single crochet in the last space. And I'm going to join with a slip stitch to the first stitch. And that is the first eye, so I'm going to cut the yarn and leave a long tail for sewing. In the original pattern, I used a bit of light orange yarn to embroider the pupils, but I'm going to be using buttons this time. Now for the yellow eyes. Again, I'm using white instead. These have a rounder shape and are worked in continuous rounds, so no joining or turning at the end of the round. Round 1, in a magic ring, make 6 single crochet. In round 2, increase in each stitch around for a total of 12 stitches at the end of the round. Round 3, half double crochet in the first stitch, double crochet and half double crochet into the next stitch, into that same stitch. Single crochet in the next stitch and slip stitch into the next stitch, leaving the rest of the stitches. Cut the yarn and leave a long tail for sewing. And for these eyes, I'm also using buttons for the pupils, but you can also embroider these as well or use safety eyes if you like. Since I'm using regular buttons, I'm going to sew them on with a needle and thread. And just a tip, if you're using buttons of different shapes and colors, make sure when you're selecting your buttons that you set aside all the buttons you're going to need. I only brought out the 4 buttons for the first slipper because I forgot I would need the same number for the other slipper, and I had to bring out the jar and the buttons again and sort through them again until I found matching buttons. So just save yourself some time and select them all at once. Now it's time to assemble everything and add the finishing touches. I'm sewing the fins to the back of the body with a yarn needle. There's no specific placement for these. I'm placing one in the second set of purple rows from the mouth, and the second fin will go on the next purple row set. I'm using a stitch marker to hold the fins in place while I sew them down. Next, I'm going to sew the eyes to each mouth. The round eyes go on the inside mouth and the diamond-shaped eyes go on the outside mouth. The last thing I'm going to do is stitch some spots on the inside mouth. I did this in red yarn in the original slippers, but for this pair I'm using teal, and there's no specific number or method of stitches. I'm just stitching some spots or markings to give it a little character. And that is it! These crochet slippers are ready to wear! Let's go try them on! This color combo is just so fun. It makes me so happy, and I love how by just changing the colors, it gave these slippers a whole different look and feel. If you make these slippers, I'd love to know what you think of them, and if you have questions, let me know. If you like this crochet tutorial, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more crochet content. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video.